Tom, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me. I feel like it's been a long time coming, to be honest. Every time I've seen people come for a podcast, but like, excuse me, like, you know.
Where's my invite?
Where the fuck's my invite? Exactly.
I feel bad because there's a lot of people like that who I'm like, need to get on. That it's just like getting around to and like logistics and shit like that.
True,
and just,
true. Yeah,
making sure we don't die in the process. But
I just get pissed off when Azim keeps doing a podcast and never invites me, and I'm just like, you know, my legs are out there, just like, come on, why the fuck's my invite?
Actually, same here, because I haven't done Azim's podcast since he did it at the uni. So I think I've had a haircut, I've grown a beard, I'm owed a second visit on the show.
Yeah. Like times have changed since then. A lot's changed in 3 years.
God, 3 years. Has it been 3 years since we finished uni?
3 years, yeah, which is crazy. It still feels like yesterday that we graduated, to be quite honest. It doesn't feel, it feels like the last couple of years. So, since COVID, it just feels like everything's been a bit of a blur. It just feels like everything's just rushed forward.
Time warp.
Yeah, literally. And I'm just like, I mean, I'm still stuck in 2019 half the time, so I'm just like, what the fuck's going on?
It was a better time.
Literally. I can't lie, I did like lockdown though. First lockdown. That was quite fun, to be honest.
I can't remember. I think it's such a blur that time. I think was the second one the summer one?
So we had the first one that was March.
That was like
end of March to like June.
Yeah.
And then we had, I honestly can't remember the second one, because we had one.
So people say it's the second one, but there was like a 2 week break. It was like you could go have one roast dinner and back to
go to the pub, stay at a table, drink at that table. You can't go round. God. I remember going with friends like back home, and we went to a pub and we got kicked out because we kept like moving tables, and we got kicked out and barred for like the rest of the year or something. The rest of COVID, and we're like, all right, fine, whatever. But yeah, I just remember. Do you remember when we were doing like our second year when we had to do our what do you call it for the video module?
And one module that was meant to be like, and work together, and you'll need more than one person. It was like, no, good fucking luck. God, I hated that module. So much.
It made me hate video. Like actually despise it. Obviously now I like video, obviously, but at the time I think I was just completely put off video.
I was just like, I signed up to a fucking photography course, and they're making us do fucking silly little videos.
There's a fucking video department downstairs, and they do, what are they going to do? Like a photography-based module. Like,
well, they don't.
That's the thing.
I remember talking to Azim, and he was like, what do you mean you're doing a video-based module when you're in a photography course? We don't do a photography module. And I'm like,
exactly.
Yeah, you're singing to the choir. The fuck's going on?
It was crazy.
Yeah. And now we just hit record non-stop, to be honest. So that worked out.
Yeah, but, exactly. And now it's funny because now it feels like you guys here at the studio, you tend to be doing more video-based work than photography. So
I mean, it depends.
I feel like those things sort of naturally happen now, isn't it? When you go to a studio and they like do photography, and then they're like, the client would be like, oh, so do you do video sort of thing? Yeah. And you're like, yeah, and then they're like, oh.
And then you go, oops, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
I'd say we probably do an even amount, but I think what makes photographers be like, I feel like I'm doing more video is because video just takes a lot longer. So to make a 30-second video just fucking kills you.
Yeah.
But you can like do a whole photo shoot, and it's like, because you don't have to sit with the you don't have to wait for it to fucking render. You don't. There's all the extra shit that's kind of not involved in photography, unless you're doing like some really techie Photoshop stuff. That's when it evens out. But we don't have to do darkroom processing anymore. Like, it's kind of, our process is a bit quicker if we're good at it. You know what I mean? Plus we did more modules in photography, so I'm also going to put the time displacement down to being like better trained.
That's
true. Video.
That's true.
Yeah, we're getting faster though. But
it takes time. It takes time.
No, that's the thing though. It's like you can't do a photo podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be weird.
Unless it would just be stills and you just had like the audio recording, and you're just like, why can't I just watch a fucking video?
We should do that for this one. We'll just have a slideshow of back and forth between your face and my
it'll look
face.
It'll be like something out of a comic book.
It'll be kind of cool. Add the speech bubbles. No audio. No one will complain about the fucking echo then. Though.
Yeah.
But no,
that would be quite funny actually. I can't lie.
That module drove me mad. That was the only
get
one.
One of those books and like where you actually have like the little speech like
make it like a flip book and then it will look animated.
Yeah,
it'll look like a video.
Yeah, that'd be quite fun actually. I can't lie. Just an animated version of ourselves, just in there like. Yeah, that'd be great.
I hope no one's expecting me to actually do that.
Yeah, can you imagine? You're going to get like a influx of like emails saying, so, "Oh, you're actually going to be doing this?" Because that'd be really cool.
It's a good idea, actually. I think it'd be really cool. And you're like, no, it won't.
No, it was a joke.
It's
like, Tom, what have you done?
Yeah, fuck. That was the only one of my modules that, it was like weird in COVID. They gave us all the like, the 3, instead of being like, you submit and late, there was like 3 submissions.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Which I don't really.
I think in a way it was fine because it sort of gave you sort of room to improve. I think I got all my work sent in for that first submission date because I just
the
wanted to
video
get
was
it
the
done.
only one I did for the second one just because I was like. But the problem is it made all the ones that I handed on time better because I was procrastinating by doing the other 3 modules that I enjoyed by not doing by being like, fuck the video one and do the photo one.
Yeah, I think I did the same. I left the video one to like the last thing to do. I just wanted to get everything else out the way, done, and then I could put all my time and energy into that module because I have to admit it was fucking exhausting.
Yeah. In hindsight, though, we probably should have all just like if we were smart. I should have just submitted everything on the 3rd deadline because that would have given me like a whole extra month to work on all the projects. Like, and it wasn't considered like a late hand-in. It was just they gave us another 3 weeks if you wanted it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was crazy.
Well, especially when we were having to literally, when we started that module, 'cause when we were literally starting it, that's when COVID happened, and then we were meant to obviously do all that, classwork stuff where we would learn about the editing and all that sort of stuff and getting to learn Premiere Pro and all that sort of stuff. And obviously COVID happened and it was like, oh, well, you've got to figure out for yourself.
Get on YouTube.
Yeah, watch tons of tutorials. And it's like fucking great.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then we had to do our entire 3rd year in COVID as well.
Yeah.
Which it's like weird seeing now because obviously like at the time of recording anyway, it's like when the degree show's coming out for all the other unis and you see work and it's like, man, they did loads of like portrait stuff, and they were all together and doing stuff.
I did like
we did stuff in fucking isolation, like.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, when I look back at it now, it's one of those things where I've completely gone on a completely different path to what I was doing before in photography. I was like doing fashion photography, and now I'm obviously doing architecture photography. And when I look back on it, I was like, why the fuck was I doing fashion? Especially now when I have like absolutely like not zero interest in it, but I'm just don't have that same level of.
But was it
interest.
Just a product of the people you're around? Because you were friends with a lot of the fashion people.
Yeah,
so it seemed like
I feel like I was sort of
a logical
exposed to that world sort of thing, and I was sort of like, I don't know. I feel like with photography. I always got told, this was prior to uni, that architecture photographers, it's a very niche market. It's very difficult to have a career in it. Most photographers tend to obviously go down the more e-commerce fashion route.
Yeah,
sort of
but
thing.
now all the e-commerce stuff's dying because just AI and
exactly
Photoshop, like
and then the fashion photography industry is just really cutthroat, really difficult to actually get in. So it's just sort of like do not miss that at all. To be honest. To be quite honest, and I know a few people that work in like the fashion photography industry, and they're just it's just a very sort of demoralizing industry. It's just very cutthroat, very
vicious.
Vicious is a good word to describe it. Just very.
But I feel like that happens in like a lot of creative industries, and that's because I think it's going away slightly, but it's because you go back to the generation before, they had to deal with their parents being like, go get a real fucking job. So they had to kind of like, anything that gets sort of like rejected and becomes sort of, not subculture, but like separate, has to like prove its value. So they do that by kind of like just making it harder than it actually is. You know what I mean? To try and like make stuff valued and stuff, just to be like, no, it has to be done this way and all that sort of shit. And
even if you do like, even if you go down like the freelance routes, you're still going to get that sort of, particularly from your parents and family, you're still going to get like that judgment sort of thing. If you have like a quiet period for like a month or something, they'll be like, oh, why don't you go and get a real job sort of thing. And you're just like, it's like, you've never worked in freelance, so
it's sort of, So I think you get better at managing, but it's just like, you know, you can't predict every twist and turn, you know.
Well, no, I mean? Exactly.
Like, we're still young, realistically, as well. Yeah. Fingers crossed we're...
Yeah, exactly. No, you're, you know, obviously doing really well, you know, freelance. But that's the thing, is like, I mean, I know quite a few photographers who work in like the architectural and like property photography industry who obviously do freelance. And I mean, they say they always get each year a very quiet period, particularly like during the winter months. That is when you're sort of hitting that off-peak time. Now it's, you know, between sort of spring and sort of autumn, it's just, you know, constant non-stop. And then obviously the winter months, it dies down.
Well, every industry has its sort of cycle within the year, because stuff gets popular at different times, like, because it's all based on markets and money and bullshit, and so people just fucking doing what they like. But you know, it's what it is. Exactly. But it's interesting, like, between us three, because Alex behind the camera, but like we all were kind of in the same little pocket of the university. Like, but just seeing how, or even just expand it out to the rest of our year group, it's always interesting to see where different people have gone. Like, but I think like between us three, obviously we all sort of, I say similar-ish area, because you're in Leighton Buzzard, which is still sort of like the East Midlands.
Yeah, it's not that far.
In the grand scheme of the universe, it's the same place. But like, but also like being in Northampton during uni and stuff like that, and not being like, oh, and now I'm going back up north or back to a different country. So it's kind of interesting that we've all been around the same sort of group of people, just to see where different people take it. And I'll probably put like Ada in that category as well. And
especially since she's, you know, Ada's moved from, you know, the fine arts straight into obviously fine art photography, and obviously her work is stunning as well. So obviously I'm looking forward to her exhibition in the summer.
August,
so not long at all, which is catching up quickly. but no, it's interesting to see what people do and how people sort of finally, you know, realize what they want to do in photography. So I feel like in the creative scene, it's one of those things where you try out tons of different aspects of art photography, and then you're just trying to find something where, because that's the thing, you want to be able to find something that is yours, you know, that you love doing, and then you want to be able to like try and either make a profit out of it, or if you want to try and get a job from it, you know.
I think it's just finding out what you want to do with the fucking time you've been given to do it in, basically. And I think it's that it comes back to like what makes our age group interesting is that people do kind of change and evolve a lot, because it's sort of like we're not considered kids anymore.
No.
Although we may be slightly childish, but we're, you know, you're considered a person. But it's like that saying of like, spend your 20s figuring out what you actually want to do, what you like, what you don't like, what you actually want to do, and then your 30s is for like refining it and stuff. But
Absolutely.
It's just sort of like figuring out, like, when you get to the end and you have to say like, what the fuck did I do? It's like, this is what that time is for, like figuring out what you're gonna fucking do, which, like you say, it can be like finding shit that you're proud of, and to be like, this is what I did, and this is what came of it, and this is the effect it had on the world or your community or whatever. And I think that's sort of the why you do it. Like you know, Ada used to do collages and has moved more into photography and is experimenting with different stuff. You've gone from fashion to architecture and found sort of something there. Fucking everyone's evolved. You and Alex are doing something, I'm sure. Like,
I feel like with mine, like, I mean, I was doing like architecture obviously before uni, and it's sort of like something I just sort of stopped doing. And then when I was in uni, it sort of went. It sort of started out. I was doing architecture photography like the first year, and then I ended up going down like the fashion route. And I think that was more of an influence of the friends I had, you know, obviously still have from uni. And I ended up obviously doing like tons of helping them out with their projects and stuff. And, you know, so like me and Alex, we sort of became, and I think you as well, we sort of became like the designated fashion photographers at uni sort of thing for that year. And, which was good because it gave us like a lot of connections and sort of meeting new people, which was grand.
And sort of like the trial experience of working for someone else and not just doing whatever the fuck you wanted.
Exactly. And that's
which is always interesting.
Absolutely.
Which I think is like, because I kind of forget, like, you had a lot of sort of like Liam Wong influence and Todd Hydo influence in like first year in a lot of the module projects.
Yeah,
even
I still do
Todd's
work, but I feel like that's more of a winter project. I feel like that's the only time of year you can actually get that nice sort of
that
look,
style,
that time to actually appreciate.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's I've tried doing it in the summer, and it's nice in the summer, but I feel like it's very
it's a different feeling.
It's a different feeling. Yeah, it's more of a I don't know. I feel like the winter months is more of like an unsettling feeling, just more atmospheric sort of.
Yeah, because you get loads of like condensation and mist. And,
it was like the project I did, what was it, during lockdown in Northampton. And I just went out everywhere, just going out when it was really foggy that time. And that was fun. And it was so weird because obviously it was lockdown, so there was literally no one around. So it literally was like Northampton was deserted, literally a ghost town. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, do you remember the animated film Cars?
Yeah, that's not where I thought that was going, but yeah, I do remember Cars.
It just reminds me of the bit. Do you remember when, what was it? Oh, Lightning or whatever his name is, the like the main character in that film. He obviously just arrives at that town. What was it? Radiator Springs.
Radiator Springs.
And they just had like they had the traffic light, and they just sort of kept blinking on and off.
Yeah.
And they have here in Northampton, they have the obviously like the big crossroads by the Aldi. Obviously not far from here, and I remember that was when I was going to, and the lights were obviously constantly changing on and off, but there was literally no traffic, and it was just fog, and it was just it was a really nice,
a weird feeling.
Yeah, it was really eerie. It was amazing to shoot, but it was just very unsettling in a way, sort of thing. It was just there was no people around, no cars, and these lights were just constantly blinking on and off, sort of thing. It was just very sort of like a very sobering moment.
Yeah. It was weird. It was kind of strange to be a photographer in that time. Just like, because obviously we had to do our final year projects as well. So it wasn't even like we could just kind of like, oh, well, I'll just come back to photography later. It was like, oh, we have to get something done. But it's like, for me, I always found it like, I don't know, it almost felt like everyone suddenly just ran to the fucking streets to get photos of empty streets. Yeah. And that was like, but it seemed like everyone was doing it to the point where it was like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, just through COVID, you just saw how similar everyone's mind is.
Yeah.
Even though during that time everyone's mind was kind of changing because everyone kind of had this time to go, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
Yeah. And I think it was definitely one, also you were trying to like not lose your complete sanity as well and try and keep yourself busy. Yeah. Because I mean, that project, that was during, obviously third year when we're, just before, that was just like during the winter months or whatever.
Yeah.
And, I think that project was sort of like something where I was just trying to also keep myself busy and, because obviously you're focusing all your time and attention on your, project for FMP, and then you're just like, I want to do other stuff as well. I don't want to be putting all my time into that. Because by the time, uni finished, I was completely burnt out. To be quite honest, I was so exhausted from all the, because it was difficult. Yeah. It was fun to do, but it was difficult just putting all your... and
it was weird to have no, like, I don't know, I had like a weird experience with it where actually I quite enjoyed just being left the fuck alone for, like, we didn't have to go into lectures, we didn't really have, it was basically the first day, it was like, so the FMP is do what you want, and you have to write an essay, and you have to make a sketchbook, but you can do whatever the fuck you want, basically. Come back at the end of the year. Was the same. And if you're really that stuck, come email us, basically, was kind of how it went. But I quite like just having, like, because it gave time just to figure out how you liked or didn't like, probably in your case, like how to work on things. Because for me, I did all the written stuff. Like, what was it? It wasn't like a dissertation. We wrote like half a dissertation.
But it was like 5,000 words or something, wasn't it? Like,
I think we had like because we had 2 essays. So I think we did write the equal of a dissertation. It was just like split between 2, like a big chunky one and a smaller one. Yeah. But I wrote it like 200 words a day at a time. So I'd wake up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, write 200 words. Yeah. And then like, regardless of if I wanted to keep writing or stop writing, was just like, no, that's all I'm doing today. I finished like a term ahead of like, because I kind of fucked up. Lost all sense of time, and then I'd like finished it, and then I remember meeting up when you could go on like walks. Me and Alex would go on walks when we started kind of like plotting this. And I was like, I finished it, and Alex was like, what the fuck do you mean you finished? He was like, we've got another term, and I was like, I've badly miscalculated, but it gave me way more. That's why I like just slowed down, took it really slow, but it kind of felt like quite a immersive experience to work on that project.
Yeah.
As I think like when you were at uni and you were like, oh, now I've got to do this and I've still got to do this later, it kind of felt very like, fuck. And like, I think I have a certain, sounds bad, like a tolerance for how much human interaction I can have in a day. Like I'm definitely like, I talk a fucking lot, but I am still like, I mean, you knew me at uni at the start. I was fairly introverted. Like, and I think there's that thing where when you're introverted, it's sort of after a certain level, your battery just fucking dies.
I feel like it's more of like an, I mean, I'm sort of saying, but it's more of like an extroverted introvert. So you can obviously deal with a lot of, you know, social interactions, but then you're there like, oh, you know, I'm getting a bit, you know, my battery's dying. I need to reboot, chill out for a day, and then I'll, you know, be back at it sort of thing, you know.
And I think it's just finding what, I think regardless of extroverted or whatever, I think everyone has things that like, and nothing to do with like expending physical energy, but you have things that like, it's kind of like getting inspired. You have things that, you know, if you like, oh, if I go and, I don't know, do something different for a while, I'll come back to what I'm like having to do with a lot more energy versus like, if I'm doing this, then this second part's I'm not going to be able to fucking sit down and do this because, you know, it's just about like balancing that. And I think that year when you had like this massive project that obviously you wanted to do well on because you were going to get marked on, you wanted to push yourself and do something interesting. Yeah. Having that burden, but also with none of the other distractions of like life really. Just like you say, having to try and keep your sanity on the side.
Literally. Because that's the thing, you're literally pouring all your energy into this one module. And it was funny because I mean, I actually found second year more difficult than third year. I actually preferred, I preferred third year over second year. And I mean, okay, well, we were still in lockdown, but I feel like...
Yeah, but you had like 4 modules to do, plus some other stuff, and plus still people wanted to go out and party, plus we were doing the society as well. So it was kind of like...
It was a lot to deal with,
Like, our technician at the uni gym said second year is designed to push you to be like, can you keep up with the pace? Because
well, especially because since first year, it's literally just, I mean, your grades don't count. And it's just like, your grades don't count, and it's like...
Your grades don't count. We know you're just going to go party, just fuck around. Maybe you'll take some photos. Which is annoying because some of the best work I did came from some of the first year modules, and it did nothing for my fucking final degree, as I found out about halfway through the year.
Same. I was literally all my work in second year I fucking despised, and I was just like, oh, if only if it had been switched around, like you know, I could probably have gotten like an A star or something.
I'm trying to think of a project I actually did in second year that I was like,
I like the inhabited spaces that we did with John.
That was first year though.
Well, first year, but second year. I can't even remember.
That one. I
can't remember what we did for second year.
Because you did like the industrial stuff, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Because obviously where I live, there's a lot of, you know, because Leighton Buzzard's sort of famous for its like the sand pits, because it's part of like the Green Sand Trust, and which is interesting. So there's tons and tons of sand pits nearby, and it does look, half the time when you go past them, it does look like you're in like a film set for Dune or something, because it's just, you know, because it will literally be like full on like dunes and deserts sort of thing. It's quite cool, and obviously really sandy ground and stuff, and I just found it like just an interesting project. I was thinking recently actually of going back to it and sort of doing you know, shooting on that sort of thing.
Fresh eyes.
3
years on, 6, or pushing 5 years on from first year.
Fuck. Just need to try and get past the security. Because these places are heavily, like, they have heavy security. Like, you can't, some places you can't get within, like, a couple 100 meters sort of thing. They'll have, like, cameras and whatnot. It's fucking mad.
That module was the first time I ever sold a print to someone.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Really?
Because I did I don't know if you remember, it was like the beds.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, was kind of just me taking the piss. Which, I love John. But it wasn't like meant in like a mean way, but I just remember that first introduction to the module, and it came at like a part in the course where I was like still kind of like, because we had lectures where it was like explaining what the shutter button was, and I was like, this is a fucking joke.
Yeah, you're just there like, come on now, like,
I remember in the like first 2 weeks I was talking to Alex, and I was like, I can't lie, I might just fucking drop out. This is fucking, are you kidding me? People saying they'd never held a camera before, like, what the fuck am I doing here? But
that's the thing, is like when you had like some people on the course who've never done photography before, and it's sort of like, how did you get on this course? Like, I mean, prior to uni, I'd done my level 2, level 3, in photography, and level 3 was like, UAL and whatnot.
Probably done stuff outside of the courses as well. Like you fucking, it was like Joe Joyce as well was like, I thought I'd get on the course and everyone would be like really keen for photography, which I think does happen at other unis, but apparently for us, not so much. No, but there was a few of us, to be fair. There was a significant amount of just like people who were just like, why are you here?
Yeah, they were just there really for more.
They just
sort
of
the lifestyle.
Go to uni.
Yeah, exactly. And even then it was like, oh, we're just here for the lifestyle. I'm like, if you're here for the lifestyle, why the fuck are you in Northampton?
Northampton was voted by Unilad the best night out in England, though.
True, that is very true.
Based on the price of a shot at Spoons or something, I think.
Yeah,
which like that's the measure.
Yeah, literally. I mean, it was cheaper, relatively cheaper. MBs and other clubs are, at the time. Don't know what it's like now. Haven't been to obviously MBs in like over 3 years. So
good.
Yeah,
good.
But do you remember the other project that we did for, it was first year, was for Tracy, because I remember I did mine, basically all of mine was just I can't remember what it was, but I just did a series of, it was all the telephone boxes.
Oh, why do I remember?
But I can't remember what the project was about.
Because she was like our art or technical module.
Yeah.
Because Alex was the art module. She was like the technical, teaching you how to use the camera, but kind of just another art module sort of thing, like disguised as that. Yeah. She did a lot of like darkroom printing and processing that. Yeah. God, we did a fucking lot.
We did loads when you think about it. Yeah. It's definitely more enjoyable than second year.
Second year was a lot, but it was just like, fucking all right. Actually, I like the first half. I like, was it the identity project we did as well that was fairly open with the exhibition? That was cool. Yeah,
and I like Eugene's one as well, when we did all the advertising photography, marketing photography. That was quite fun to do, sort of thing. It sort of gives you a set taste of
the magazine part.
Yeah,
I liked that.
That
was
cool.
Fun.
Yeah.
Doing the layout and stuff with, and I mean the lecturers made that module. Let's be honest. Like, regardless, like it's weird because you'd expect it to be the module that everyone was like, fucking commercial shit. I came here to do a creative course and we're doing, but actually the lecturers were really good and it was kind of like quite an interesting one. Yeah, I liked Elsa's module as well.
Yeah, Elsa's was good,
and
it was interesting.
Like when it became Jose's as well. The bit in between,
but that was just when I think everyone just stopped turning up at one point because it was just
the lecture that was just me and Alex because everyone else had boycotted it and we were there like, and the guy was like, "Where is everyone?" We're like, I fucking know.
God, that was
like, well, I'm just going to get on with it. And then he gave the same lecture he gave last week.
And did he fall on like was it like a Thursday or something? We had the lecture, so obviously Wednesday was student night, so everyone went out on a Wednesday. So it just gave everyone an excuse not to go to his lesson because it was so shit.
But when it was Elsa's module, it was really good.
Yeah, it was.
Like Elsa's module was kind of what I went to uni for. I thought it was all going to be that, like, fucking let's get into the fucking
theory of things,
theory and understanding deep shit that you don't just find by watching like
a documentary,
photo YouTubers or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like let's find some dusty old book and find out what they thought. Like that was interesting, but
absolutely, yeah.
It's just a shame everyone else didn't quite get it because they didn't actually like photography, it seems.
No, exactly. It was interesting, particularly how, since uni's finished, in the 3 years since, only literally a handful of us were actually doing anything, actually working in the industry.
Yeah, well, actually, we're doing, based statistically, Jim said to, I think it was all of us when, like, possibly when we were doing a shoot in the studio for someone, and he said, basically, there's one from each year group that actually go on and do like anything. And he's like, I don't mean like make it like big superstar photographer. I mean like
just
go and still take photos.
Yeah.
But he seemed hopeful. So the fact that there's like, what, 5, 6 of us still fucking getting it. Like, that's good going.
Yeah, I mean, I think didn't he said we were like the best year group as well.
It did feel like, for the little in group who was fucking down for it, it felt pretty good, and like people who wanted it, and like we were just doing it basically just for the love of it, because like
we were always doing stuff literally 24/7. It was literally all the time we were doing something.
Threw ourselves in.
Yeah, exactly. Sick. Yeah.
Then doing like the society as well was fucking
that was fun.
Sick. Get people in to, but that was still like the fucking. I wish we had just done the whole thing. Like, well, we ended up doing half of it out of pocket anyway. Yeah. The university was just a fucking piss take with payments and fucking shit like that. They were like, "Oh, we'll give you this much," and they were like, "Oh, oh man, what was it?" Because we did the talks.
The talks were good.
Yeah, which was like the main thing we did.
Yeah,
who we had. We had Gabriel, Deacon, Brain Dragon.
Still waiting for his next book.
Yeah, Candy Photography, who love her or hate her, I owe a massive part of my career to. And Ellen Jane Rogers as well.
Oh yes,
we had one more. I can't remember. Oh, it's Mina. Fuck, it's Mina.
Yeah.
Shout out. And we paid all of them. Through the society. Not necessarily through the uni, despite what they said they were going to give us.
But exactly. But that's the uni.
We did it right. But but that was good. Like, I wish we had just done it. Like,
is that still going at the moment? 'Cause didn't they have?
So from what I've heard, Niall brought it back.
Yeah.
So it died obviously over COVID. Then we'd all gone.
Yeah.
Niall started 2 years after COVID, I think.
Which is fair enough, because I feel like everyone's still sort of in that sort of COVID period where they're just like,
or maybe no. I think he started the year after COVID finished. Okay. Then when he was in second year, he started. In first year, he was saying about starting the society, and I was, because he came to me and Alex and he was like, "I want to bring it back," because he came to some even though he wasn't a student. He like snuck in and like because he knew us. And we said to him like, "Well, we did it in second year just so you have a first year to kind of like get used to university life," and then he did it. So I think it's still going, even though he's just graduated, because my mum found flyers for them doing like online photography lessons or something.
That's cool. Yeah.
But so still going.
Still going strong. You know, one of our creations
survived.
That's the thing. I'm surprised, like, shame that the uni doesn't fund some of these societies, especially when it's a new society coming up.
They kind of do. It's just like the problem. Here's the problem that we always said about is the uni gets all excited that the societies are free. As if you go to like Nottingham, it's like, oh, you can join this. It'll be £5 a term or something. Yeah. Which isn't that much realistically. Yeah. That's a meal deal and a half.
Yeah.
Or half a meal deal nowadays.
Yeah.
But the upshot was you could just go and turn up to whatever society you want. But the problem is you never really felt like you're actually part of it. You thought you were just like, oh, they're doing something cool. Go here this week. Like you never felt like properly in it.
Yeah.
And because of that, the societies just didn't have any money. Like they said they give you stuff, but they were like, yeah, we'll give you stuff for a guest speaker. And then after we did one or two, they were like, to be honest, guys, we were and we weren't paying these people like a lot. Like, it was like,
and it depends also cheap. Like when you get photographers in, it's like it depends on, because everyone's obviously got their different tastes in photography, their different interests. So you can get someone who will come in, and I think we were quite open minded. We just want to see every photographer that came in. Just
and I think there was like a bit of a through line, but I always tried to be like, because I think Mina was by recommendation. I think Andy was a recommendation as well.
Yeah.
Ellen had done something on our course anyway. Yeah. And I was like, she's fucking cool, let's get her in. And then Gab I knew from like ages ago, and everyone sort of like kind of knew about. So it was like, made sense. And he turned out he was like an ex-student as well. Yeah. Because Steve and Jim were like, oh, it's Gabriel who did the foundation art course, when the foundation art course was like fucking sick apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was trying to keep it open. It was just like, it's just when they got back and they were like, we were expecting guest speakers to cost. Well, we were expecting they expected it to the actual cost to be. They were like up to £20 travel budget. like great, so they can get a bus from the next town over.
Yeah, literally.
Like, and it's just like, and they were like, well, if you need extra funds, then you could do a cake sale or something. You're like, so all these societies are actually doing what they set out to do. I don't know why I didn't just say to everyone, like, in or out, just fucking get everyone paying a $5, which probably would have been the death of it immediately, because people are unreliable as fuck, and it is what it is. But like,
even if it's a $5, people are still going to be.
If people were paying for it, they probably would have like actually come when they said they come.
Well, yeah,
because they would have been like, well, that's my money going down the drain. Not that they cared about their student loan going down the drain when they weren't turning up to lectures, but I don't know. But
literally.
But that was the problem. It was just like, oh, okay, so when you say society's free, what you mean is you've kind of just broken the system for something that sounds good. And it was just like, okay. But we did it. Still going. Yeah. Happy days.
One of our creations. Still going strong.
And we're all still going now. We're all still doing
exactly
bullshit we want to be doing.
Yeah.
Life. But yeah, and then we all kind of still interconnected as well.
Yeah, which is nice. Yeah, like, we've sort of maintained our friendships since uni. Because you sometimes get, especially when you're, obviously it can be difficult when you're, great distances apart, sort of thing, and some friendships just sort of go, know. But
I feel like most people I'm still sort of like friends with, not like talk every day friends with, but like,
but you still see fairly regularly. Yeah,
still
exactly.
See them popping up on Instagram doing stuff. So it's
it's just nice. Come out for drinks and whatnot, and just go and do stuff.
Or coming on the podcast.
Exactly.
Fuck. And then should we talk about architecture, about what we're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely.
And as well, like the exhibition, because that was 2 weeks ago now.
God, yeah.
Time's flying.
That's honestly mad how quickly that time's gone by.
Christ, man.
Literally felt like it was last week. Yeah. So I mean, I actually need to go to London at some point. I haven't done any like fine art photography for a couple of months, I think.
Was the last time when we shot some of the stuff for the interview?
And I can't even. When was that? That was April, was it?
Yeah, it was quite a fair way before the exhibition.
Yeah,
because I think I was filming. It happened to be in London because I was filming the interview for Harry's one, which was the exhibition before yours. Yeah. So, and you were like, "Oh, I'm going down on this day," so I was like, "Perfect, I can just jump and do both in one." So it was quite a bit before. It must have been like a month and a half before, maybe 2 months.
It's mad. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm literally so bad with keeping on track with the months and stuff. Like, I do need to go to some places.
That's life though. But you've been you've started the architecture like commercial stuff as well. So you're still shooting architecture, just a slightly different style and approach and reasoning. So it's not like you've just sat around being like, so I've just not picked up a camera for 2 months. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Just picked up a different camera. But I do need to go and do some more shooting. Especially, you've sort of got to take advantage of the summer months, because it'll be, 5 o'clock in the morning. It'll feel like midday sort of thing in the event, like perfect. There's no people around, to be quite honest, and
it'll be nice light as well.
Yeah, like honestly, first light is probably the best time of day to actually shoot photography, like particularly architecture photography. It's just a very very atmospheric, you get nice light. Because it's fine in the day and, the height of the day sort of thing. Particularly with architecture photography, they always say like, oh, the best time of day is to sort of shoot after lunch, sort of like mid-afternoon, which can be fine, but particularly when, obviously it's really bright outside and it's really harsh light, it can be really...
It's hard to control, and I've never
especially really depends on what you're shooting. If you're shooting a building that's obviously... You're looking south at it, and obviously the sun's right there. It's going to be a freaking pain in the ass to work with. It's like, Jesus.
Christ. And it's a long walk to get to the other side when something's that big.
Exactly. I've been meaning to go and try and do some, like, bridge projects. So I want to go to, I think, is it the Queen Elizabeth Bridge? Or Prince Charles? I can't remember what bridge it's called, but the ones that connect England to Wales.
Oh
yeah, those are quite cool. And I want to go to the bridge up in Hull as well. Yeah, so that's a really cool bridge. I do really want to go to. I mean, it's not in the UK, but I do want to go to Lisbon just to shoot, because they've got, obviously I can't remember the name of the bridge, but there's a massive bridge because they've got like a huge sort of like estuary. I think it's an estuary or something,
yeah,
and it's like this amazing bridge that sort of goes around and sort of curves around, and it's it's quite a stunning bridge. Yeah, that's
cool. There's a big one in Edinburgh as well, isn't there?
Yeah, but fuck driving to Edinburgh. Man, I mean, to be fair, I do need to go to Edinburgh at some point. You know, let's just get the train up there and spend like a weekend or something, and just do that. But and that's the thing. Like with my new job, because obviously I'm working Monday to Friday, which is grand. Obviously doing photography. But that's the thing, you know, when it comes...
you into the weekend for everything else.
Yeah.
And as well, like, it kind of, when you work like that, it becomes a bit like the weekends are meant to be for, like, recuperating, not just going even faster. And
yeah, absolutely. Like absolutely. I was meant to go to London yesterday, but I ended up seeing some friends. One friend I haven't seen in, like, nearly 2 years because she's been in Australia, so needed a much-needed catch-up. Yeah. And, I might go next weekend, to be quite honest. And if the weather's looking good, then I might go. Yeah. But I don't want it being too bright to the point where it's just going to be a pain to shoot in. It's nice getting that balance with sun and cloud, you know, especially obviously when I'm doing like long exposure as well. It, you know, makes all the difference. Those clouds are all
wispy and long and like silk in the sky, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice.
You know, but no, it's cool though, because it's, because I went for like a period where obviously after I left the studio, I sort of went sort of downhill a little bit, and I was sort of demotivated and sort of burnt out.
Yeah, because I feel like that followed on from uni as well.
Yeah,
because we started sort of. When did we move in here? Like a month before graduation.
Yeah,
so it was like literally like there was no sort of like, let's celebrate finishing uni. It was just like, I think like, I mean, for me anyway, there was just that paranoia of like, if I don't start doing something immediately, my parents are going to be like, right, go get a real job then. What are you going to do with that fucking stupid degree you got? You know what I mean? No, actually, they're quite supportive. But that would have been in the back of their minds, you know, when you could just sense it. Just like, fuck. Yeah. So it was just like, let's go do this, let's try and figure it out. So there wasn't really that time to be like, hey guys, we did it. It was just like, okay, let's fucking, let's go actually do it now. We're qualified to do it.
Yeah, but, exactly. And that's the thing, it's like difficult, like, because, you know, a lot of people when they finish uni, they want to, you know, go traveling for a year or something just to recuperate, which is obviously great. But then sometimes depends on what you do, because sometimes you could literally finish uni, take a year off to do whatever you want, and then come back. And then some people, you know, particularly different industries, you could literally get a job like that sort of thing. Well, the creative scene just doesn't work like that. You've got to literally keep working until you get somewhere sort of thing.
Well, you got to kind of like prove your
abilities.
Yeah, like you got to earn your fucking stripes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can't just rock around like, ooh, I have a degree, because everyone just goes, well, what have you actually got to show for it?
Yeah.
Which I kind of like, because, you know, in other industries, you get all these people who are like, look, I've got a first degree, so shut up and listen to me. And then you sat there being like, you don't know what you're fucking talking. Like, this guy can't do shit because he's studied theoretical chair making and can't do carpentry. So it's just like, it kind of balances itself out, but it requires, I think that's the thing, that it's like the same thing that makes you creative also makes you quite driven when you're in the right sort of space, obviously. And that's like such a benefit. But it also, that's the other thing that people come up against is like, it's like, I've done all this work. Yeah. And I'm still broke, because it's just like, there's that part of you that's just like, that's a cool project, I want to just get on it and do it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's a balance to strike, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
But it's, you know, like I say, it's the joy of learning how the world works and where you fit in it, if you fit in it. Like,
no, absolutely. Yeah. No, it is good. No, I'm sort of very grateful, particularly for the past year and a half, how much progression I've sort of made in that time, particularly in photography. And obviously now I'm doing obviously like property photography and videography, and obviously learning new skills as well, which is cool. Like floor planning, and obviously I'll get my drone license at some point as well, which is cool. So it's definitely, you know, I'm definitely in the right path, which is grand, you know, and there's a lot of room for progression, which is great. And, you know, and then a lot of architecture photographers, they do say, you know, like property photography is sort of like the bread and butter, where that's where you're going to be getting the most work. Obviously I work for a company, so it's not freelance, but, you know, it's good that I can sort of do that and sort of show for it.
Well, I think you need like you say, the bread and butter. You need a backbone to what you're doing to support the stuff that you just want to be doing.
Yeah.
Because like you with your stuff that's like art, like the fine art architecture, you can't do that even if you lived in London without having money to like pay for the tube. You know what I mean? Or buy the camera, or just have the time to be there and still, you know, eat, sleep, all that sort of stuff as well.
Just
so
actually survive.
Like,
just actually get by.
Where it's like you have to do something. I think it's just like you said about like you're on a path that you're actually like meant to be on, which I think is like the struggle. Because I think out the gates from uni, it was just like, give us anything you got, we'll fucking come shoot. Let's do it. And then you end up locked into something. You're like, oh shit, we're going down. We're just being carried this way, and then suddenly you're somewhere doing something that you have no interest in, but like there's all this pressure on you to do it, and you're just like, fuck.
And it's difficult, particularly for, you know, creative students, because you don't get that sort of same level of opportunity as other, you know, students doing different courses that are non-creative, because you don't. Cause, I mean, we didn't get the opportunity to do any internships, and because I remember I spoke to friends obviously who went to obviously different unis, and they're obviously doing completely different courses like history or
politics.
No, but
you did an internship at that retouching.
True, but like not, you know, where people get literally.
But it wasn't like everyone on the course. It was like
you don't
and
get like a whole year to you know, do something.
But I feel like we got a good amount of experience. Like they always kept throwing us those like jobs that were coming through our way and stuff. So that was just like good experience. Like so they got some, but like.
Definitely the retouching one. When I got that, when I did a week there, I definitely made my mind up saying, I'm definitely not working in retouching, because I can't be sat 9 hours a day in front of a computer. Because
shopping out tattoos.
Honest to God. Like it was cool. It was a great experience, but I was just there like, no, I would go insane.
I mean, the retouching, I remember you came back and you were like, I had to remove this model's tattoos because they didn't want to model with tattoos. But you said they were like covered in tattoos. Literally.
They were literally all he had, even it was a guy. Literally all he had was literally his head. He did actually have tattoos on his face. He had like two, like one under each eye. And then literally full arms, neck. And I was just there like, this is fucking horrible. Like,
I could you know, literally in the back of my head when you said that here, Eugene screaming like, just get a model that you actually wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it correctly in the first place. It takes you 2 minutes, and then you don't have to spend 3 hours in Photoshop.
Yeah,
like,
and that's the thing. It's like, you know, especially when you see, you know, particularly that model with tattoos, if someone's going to see them again, like, right, you know, he's coming to a shoot, and they'll be like, oh, the photo we saw you in, you had no tattoos, but you're covered in tattoos, like, you know. And it was one thing they was interesting, like, they obviously had tons of they did obviously for huge companies as well, like Vogue and, you know, whatever they did all the retouching for. And they said they can't do any heavy retouching on actual celebrities because they're so recognizable
images.
They're so recognizable. So if you make any changes, you will notice. The people will notice, like, wait, what the fuck's happened to Angelina Jolie's nose, sort of thing.
That's the same as like Pixar had to. The reason all the early Pixar films, like Cars or Toy Story, they were never people.
Yeah,
because they realized that like, we can animate a car because no one knows what a talking car looks like. No one knows what this dinosaur toy is meant to move like, or a robot's meant to move like, so they'll just accept it. As if we try and animate a person, we know if it looks even slightly wrong, it's that uncanny valley sort of thing. So if it is a random model that no one knows who it is, it doesn't matter if you fucking give them new ears, because it's like you say, they probably just assume you look like that. But if it's like someone recognizable or has this image, then that's when you go, she looking kind of funky in this picture. You know what I mean? It's
exactly.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. No, it was a eye-opening experience. I can't lie, but it was just very. I think I sort of made up my mind. Like, I mean, it was obviously a lot to learn, you know, because the girl, the woman who sort of basically did my sort of internship or whatever for that week while I was just sort of working with her. I mean, she applied for the job, got rejected, and because when you go for the interview, you've got to actually edit photos.
Well, like in front of them.
Yeah, and which intense. Is quite intense. Yeah. And she didn't get the job, so she literally spent a whole year just learning editing, just trying all these different techniques and whatnot, which is, I'm like, you know, fair play, dedication, you know, and what
if you
want
enjoy
to do.
it, some people love
exactly
doing that. They're like, this is what I want to do, like, fine. That's
exactly.
your trip. Get on it.
But it was just like, you know, which is fair enough, but yeah, I was definitely like, no, I don't want to be a retoucher. I don't mind, I like retouching, but I'm just like, I can't be doing it 24/7 because I want to be, you know.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I have my limits. I think when projects get a little bit like, and sometimes like I don't necessarily do any sort of like retouching, but it's more like Photoshop, like when it gets graphic design, just like making it kind of cool, like too much of that, and I'm just like, bro, I want a little bit of raw, like can we just take a photo, like show off the photography, not the fucking how many layers of shit can you add?
Exactly. Because that's, I mean, because I remember, you know, when we were sort of talking about it a while ago, I think this was back sort of during uni, and particularly when we were doing all the fashion stuff, and obviously we're doing editing and that sort of thing. I remember you sort of talking about like the moral, sort of the ethics of the retouching in like the fashion industry. Just
and that was a hot topic at the time. And a lot of the brands have stopped doing like intense face, because it used to be like, doesn't matter what the model looks like, you just smush their face into that vision of beauty. Is now we're much more like accepting of like, no, people do look different, and and it's like that thing of just like, or even like on Instagram, like people, older influencers used to fucking go in with the Photoshop and just make themselves look amazing, but you know, you get to a point where you're just like, okay,
it's just unrealistic.
But then you're giving yourself some form of body dysmorphia, because every time you look in your mirror, you're like, I'm ugly compared to what people think I'm meant to look like. Because you'll sense it, because people will meet you in person for the first time and be like, you know, like the guy who suddenly has tattoos, you're a bit like, oh, that's what you look like in real life. Huh. It's like seeing a band who used loads of auto-tune back in the 80s and 90s, and you go see them live and you're like, oh, they're shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's the same thing. And I think, I don't know, if you, I mean, we're fine as we are.
I feel like, you know, if you want to make, you know, a few changes here and there, fine, you know. But like, I feel like, when it comes to like full-on body changes, because when you see like, you know, because I've seen videos in the past of like, you know, really experienced retouchers where they literally change the shape of models' eyes and their positioning and their nose, and I'm like, no, what the fuck?
Let's not do that. No, like anything that's like, I think there's a difference between like changing a feature and changing like
just smoothing out the skin, like
I don't even like that necessarily. I think for me it's like, if someone had like a massive fucking zit on their head, fair enough. They don't have that every day of their life. It's just bad luck that appeared today. They were making coffee 2 minutes before and they've wiped their face or something. You know what I mean? You can get rid of that, fine. Like that sort of stuff that's not a permanent. But if it's like something that's like them, it'll be like if someone took a picture of me and then sent it back to me and it was like, well, we removed your beard, and you're just like, well, it's not a picture of me anymore. Like, why take a picture of me if you didn't want a picture of someone with a beard? Like, fucking use your head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a certain point, especially in portraiture. I feel like if you just need a photo of a person, then it's more like fine. But if it's meant to be like a portrait, or it's meant to relate back to like not a character. So as I get it, like if you're making some sort of like, don't know, domestic abuse advert, then you might have to Photoshop the kid's tooth off. You know what I mean? Like, fine, because it's not meant to be literally a photo of the kid. You know what I mean? Same as a film, you might give someone fucking, you know, the Fremen and June, you give them blue eyes. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily have that in real life. But
that kind of reminds me of like back in college, we had to do like a module where we were doing obviously like marketing, like advertising photography. And we were doing like one like an NHS poster for like smoking. And I had one where I basically got someone to, obviously came in, took the image with them holding like a fake cigarette, added in obviously like the fake smoke, and then sort of managed to sort of like morph it into like a gun pointing at your head sort of thing. Like obviously like smoking kills sort of thing. You know, that was, you know, sort of quite fun in that respect.
But that's like creative stuff. That's different. I think. But I think that's where you get into this interesting argument that's happening about now, is like where's the boundary of, because you've got all these different things coming out, like Photoshop was designed for graphic designers, not photographers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So where does it stop being like what you did with the gun? Where does that start becoming more graphic design or like 3D rendering than photography? Yeah. Where does like someone like Ada, who does a lot of like effects based stuff, where does it stop being photography and start being fine art again? Or like Ty as well, who's got work up there in the corner. Where does it stop being? Because when he started doing stuff like that, he was getting a lot of hate from like the raw, pure photography people.
Oh, really?
He lost a couple thousand followers when he started posting it. Yeah, because people were like, you're not doing photography anymore, I don't care. Yeah. But he's like, it's still photography, I'm just editing it, but where's the line? It's like all the people who do like AI stuff, is it still photography? You always have this battle. Like even when digital came out, people are like, digital photography isn't fucking photography, get the fuck out. You know what I mean? And then we tend to expect it. So you always have that thing of like, you know, they make us do a video module. What the fuck did I sign up for? But some people just go, well, it's video photo. It's the same thing, isn't it? It's like it's completely fucking different mindset, how you have to think about it. It's like, you might not realize it because it's just a 2D version of something that looks real, but it's different things, you know? And the lines get blurry because it's the 21st century and we all start.
And photography is always something that's constantly changing anyway. You know, it's a constantly changing industry and it's always something new is happening all the time anyway. So, and then people can sort of interpret photography, you know, they could sort of make like what Ada's doing, she's doing photography, but then it's still fine art. And sometimes it doesn't look like an image, but it's still cool because you're looking at it and you can't sort of decipher whether or not it's a photo or if it's, you know,
sort of painting. Like, because she modifies the colour so much. So it's like, are you really doing photography when you're manipulating the colour of the light that much in post to the point where you're not even like really capturing the light that was there? Or using a, like, you know, that like, I know this is to say this is bad, this is good, but it's like interesting things because we're at the sort of when do we go over the edge? It's like a lot of people who are claiming to be like the term AI photographer, and people are going, you're not a photographer, there's no photography involved in what you do, it's a totally different medium. And like, is this, but just because what they produce looks like a photograph or looks like a painting, but does that mean it is painting or not? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, an android looks like a person. Is it a person? Do we need Blade Runners? Who knows? It's all that messy boundary that kind of spurs out of it, and it does come back to like, where's retouch? What are you using? I think
it's kind of like how sort of, you know, a few years ago, how people were sort of, I mean, it's probably becoming more common now when obviously people are sort of shooting on iPhones and you'll see those videos of people, you know, they'll go to like a shoot or whatever and they're literally just whipping out their iPhone and you're just there like, you know, okay, there's bits you can do on an iPhone, which is still, you know, just probably not as good as, you know, shooting on an actual DSLR or
you know, camera, but like, what's the argument? Like, because
I think it was more of like a professional aspect. I think people, when you think of like a professional photographer coming to a shoot, they're going to have, you know, huge case of equipment, cameras even, and lenses. But then,
and I think as well, this is an interesting thing that happens with photo shoots is your choice of weapon. I say camera drastically affects the sort of mental of how people react because. You know, sometimes, you know, you can be on a shoot and someone wants to get some social media. So most times someone pulls out a phone. If you point a phone camera at someone, they act completely different than when you point the big old DSLR. They act completely different than when you point a mirrorless at them. They act completely different when you pull out medium format or a large format or anything else. Like, and it's always this balance of like, you want, normally, if you're working, sometimes you don't want to control how people behave, so your choice of weapon has to be kind of strict, because if you choose the wrong one, they're going to give you the wrong thing back. But sometimes you have to know how to, not manipulate, but you have to guide people to act in a certain way. And your camera has a big... Because if you turn up with a big case of equipment, they're in their head going, oh, he's a big professional, he knows what he's doing, I can calm down. But if you turn up with like a very cheap-looking, falling-apart camera, they kind of go, oh, does this guy actually know what he's doing? Is it,
yeah.
Oh, the bulb in his light just blew. Is it? I'm gonna look awkward, and then you know, I mean, it's like all that sort of how you set them up, how you build, even like with the studio, like how you build the space around it puts people in a specific mindset.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and like, I mean, that's, you know, we spoke about architecture that goes back millennia to like the fucking Japanese tea houses were designed very intricately to look deceivingly simple, but to put people in a certain space of mind. And that's the same as like most buildings, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
And it kind of, all these small decisions that you might not think about that do add to the end result or take away from the end result. Which a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah.
I think that's why you have a lot of people who, and sometimes the people who don't think about it go and do something so radically left of field because we're so like in the mindset of like, this is how it's done. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. And we don't think about it as someone who doesn't know. And that's why like sometimes Ada's exciting to see work because she'll just do something that you're like, huh. And that's because she's not trained as a photographer. She's a fine artist, or she has her own set of input. She comes from a different country as well. So there's all of that Britishness taken out of her. Or someone like that, you know, I mean, that's why it's exciting, because they just do something that they might not necessarily realize they've done it, but you go, oh, they did that, and that caused this to happen, and that's why theirs looks like this and mine looks like this, and then you can compare, and you can shift those elements when you're working to kind of get something. Yeah. Even down to shit like, do you leave, if you're shooting flash in a studio, do you keep the model lights on or do you turn them off? You know what I mean? Do you different sort of vibe you concoct? Do you have all the lights set up when they walk in, so they walk in and go, whoa, it looks so cool in here, or do you have everything look deceivingly normal and then set it up in front of them? All that sort of
that's true
shit, just to pace things out and put you know, there's like the idea of that you're meant to put people at ease or whatever, which is depends what you want to get out of them, but most of the time you want them to look comfortable. But
that is true. Because sometimes you go to some places like studios and you sort of feel on edge, especially when it's quite a high end studio, because you're there like, oh god, in case they're going to be very, like demanding.
Don't stand on the floor.
Don't stand on there, sort of thing. You're just there like, so it's
which you can kind of. It's funny because sometimes people come here and they're like, oh, is it okay to walk on the floor? And we've always been like, just fucking go on. Like, who cares? We'll sweep it up, we'll repaint it afterwards. Like, it's fine. It's not that deep. But you can tell who's been to one of those studios before or who's like kind of being a bit reserved, and you have to make them feel a bit more at home versus people who do just come in and like, because the space is designed to feel sort of not homely, but like, oh, it is a messy creative space. If that makes sense. Like, oh, it's fine if we go and do something weird. Like, we can be ourselves here, which is like the biggest compliment Marcus gave me when he said, he's like, I come here and I feel like I can be myself. And I'm like, yes, that's what we want.
Exactly.
Just hang out and be do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? Don't feel like those gnarly high-end ones that can feel a bit dentist office. You're like, is this okay if I touch this? Is it?
That's the thing. Like, I do. Yeah, it's like I do like going to exhibitions, but sometimes you do feel and you have to go to some and they're very quiet and they're like, you can't talk. Or you can only whisper.
Whispering to the person. Did you see that one? It's very nice, isn't it?
Like, and then
you look at you and you're like,
and you're just saying like fucking hell sort of thing. It takes away from the experience because you're just there like Yeah, and I think sometimes when you go to those sort of places, you want to rush. You just want to get out because you want to be like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
You want to look around so you can talk about it afterwards.
You don't want to be able to like,
Those things are exhibitions. We sort of hated that. That's why we normally, put on music or whatever, just so people feel like they can talk and and it leads to, very interesting discussions that. If we did have the quiet gallery sort of vibe, me and Alex would miss out on all the discussions that happen because everyone would have them after they leave, rather than having them in the room with us there, like, and talking to us there, and we can overhear and eavesdrop.
Absolutely.
That's where I tend to get the enjoyment from other people's exhibiting, because I get to see how people react to their work and stuff. Like with yours, I said to you earlier about people. Reacting their own
which I wasn't expecting, to be honest. I wasn't expecting to have that kind of point of view from people sort of viewing it, sort of thing. Which in a way is nice. It's a different perspective.
Would you because you've with your work entered a few competitions that are geared towards architecture. You work in that, so you're probably the most time people who are seeing your work are already part of that sort of ecosystem. So you're probably getting a lot of people judging art based on building things. Not someone going, it looks like a sound wave, it looks like a collage. Oh, I see this little bit of graph that's been buffed out. All these like small little details that like another building person is going to be like, did you capture it in the way that we're meant to do it? Or like, oh, have you done this? Oh, and you're using this new thing that we do in what time of, like you talked a lot about like time of day, how the light falls, which is kind of all photography, but you know what I mean. But certain things, or just like from your angle, it was a lot more about the buildings. As everyone else who came in rarely said anything about the buildings.
Which was interesting. And that's the thing. Obviously, everyone's got their own different perspectives, and you know, and it depends. Like if people are interested in it at all, you know. So,
which people were,
which
everyone
is good. You know,
everyone had something to say. So
exactly. Which you know was sort of, you know, quite reassuring in that respect.
That's what you want. You wouldn't want people to just look at it like...
because I think sometimes when we've
see you later.
That's the thing. So I feel like there's been times where, you know, there's been exhibitions here in the past where people just purely come here just to socialise and not take notice of the actual exhibition. You'll just, you know, there'll be times where, you know, I've noticed it quite a few times in the past where people will literally come here, sit down, grab a drink, and then they'll just socialise, and they're not there to actually... Which can be nice,
fine
but then,
too, because that's what the space is designed for. Like we also, like sometimes we'll be working and like someone will come to just hang out and stuff. So I feel like the exhibitions is the way to open that up, because obviously me and Alex have fucking work to do. So sometimes people will like message, oh, can I come hang out? And it's like, yeah, sure. But sometimes it's like, well, not really, because we're doing this, that, and the other, but come through some other time. So the exhibitions do give a day just where it's like, come round, we're just hanging out. So that's fine too. But we've learned over the years like how to balance it out. Otherwise it does get too, and I feel like towards the end when it's like everyone's been there a while, everyone's a little bit drunk, it is going to turn into a more
social
thing. But that's kind of interesting too, because not a lot of, you know, if you go to some big exhibition, you're not going to get to sit and hang out with the person who made the work. So when we had Harry's, people got to actually like
sit
talk
down
to
with
Harry about his work face to face and like have that interaction and be like, or like with you, they'd say what they see in it, and then you'd explain how that's maybe not what you intended, or whether that's interesting, what you know, and then it adds this sort of like dynamic, because all the people we have in are also like, I guess the term would be like developing artists. So there's people who are, you know, they've done this, but that's we don't have people who are 90 years old going, welcome to my retrospective. we have people who are like, this is a series, I'm gonna do this series probably, or I'm thinking about this now. But what the exhibition gives you, that interaction with people who are looking at your work, you get to understand how other people see what you do. Because when you're working on something, you do get very in your zone, in your space, which is good. But then sometimes you'll send it to someone else and they'll be like, yeah, it all made perfect sense up until this bit. Or like, have you thought about this? Oh, that'll be cool. They'll say something, and then that can only like develop the work further. And as people who are always developing and changing, you know, that's good to have that interaction at certain like checkpoints. Be an exhibition and someone gives feedback and you go, oh, I've never thought about that before. I'm going to try this out. And then that gives you something new to do to keep you entertained. Because if you keep doing the exact same shit over and over again, eventually you're just like, okay, cool, so I've got this photo again. Like you always want to keep yourself on a pathway, you know what I mean? You don't want to get bored either. And I think that's what this little box is designed to do, you know what I mean? Bring those
so like give everyone like ideas, and it is nice, because I mean I've had it before, you know, you'll talk to someone and then you'll just be sort of bouncing off each other with ideas for whatever, you know, they could tell you what they're working on, and you'd be like, oh, well, you know, or you'll see their work and like, oh yeah, that'd be cool if you, if, like, say you could do this, and they'd be like, oh, you know, cheers, you know, I'll look at doing that sort of thing. It is, it's nice getting different people's perspectives, and then you have an excuse to come talk again, or like come back to each other, message each other, and it's like building relationships, and it kind of built
you know, a little network within the room of different artists and creatives who do different, like the amount of time people come in and go, do you know a guy does this? And then we stare at the fucking Polaroid wall and we're like, yeah, do you know this guy? He does this thing. He'll be able to help you out, or he knows a lot about this and stuff like that. So you're bringing those connections together that only just make stuff better and better. I'm sure it has this slight focus on photography, like arts, but yeah, that's what it's designed to. It appeals to that type of person. Who's willing to, you know, take the journey and wants to push a little further, meet new people and stuff. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I still need to like try and not figure out, but try and find some like not new inspiration. Sort of new inspiration. Because I mean, I obviously love London, but it gets to the point where, you know, I can't keep going to the same place, sort of thing. You know, I know because my next series I want to do is like a sort of fine art brutalist series. You know, because obviously everyone loves my work of the National Theatre, and that's where obviously where I won a few awards on as well. So it's sort of like I want to try and follow in that direction. But unfortunately, the UK doesn't like brutalist architecture, so they're knocking most of them down, unless they're sort of grade listed. But I need to try and
get it before it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. And just, I do need to go to London and a few other places, but most of the architecture team seems to be in London for brutalist architecture.
That makes sense. It's the hub. They were building stuff at that time. I think as well, it's funny you use the word inspiration, because it's not inspiration, it's like almost like direction. Yeah. It's like there's that scary part where you finish a project and then everyone goes, this is really cool, or this sucks, what the fuck are you doing? And you're kind of like, so that feels finished, where do I go now that's going to... Yeah. Like, you kind of have to look back at all your old stuff and be like, what connects them? What am I trying to... Like, where are you going? What are you trying to get to? What are you trying to explore? What could you do next time to add to that? Or change or challenge it, you know what I mean? It's just finding... common themes and threads in what you do, and also like your reason for doing it, because there's also that thing of like, it's just art, I make fun pictures, and it's like, why? You know, that painful question that everyone at uni goes, fuck. But it's like, you know, it's the way to keep yourself fueled, because you're going, I'm doing this because of this, and then that's when people go, oh right, that's why you're doing. Oh okay, well. That gives them something to bounce off of and think about, and then you're changing their mind, and it's like, trying to figure out why you do something, and the things need. I think people like the idea of things having purpose. Yeah, and it being like, oh, so we do this to keep. Like, if you do this brutalist project while they're knocking them all down, that's like reminds you of that movement that happened, and like, because if no one took pictures of it. And they knocked it all down, then that just gets lost to time. You know what I mean? And then 200 years on, people won't forget. Some shitty little kid will go and make another concrete monstrosity and be like, this is my new style. And everyone, and because no one remembers brutalism, it will be like, oh, wow, this is new. And it will just be history repeats.
And that's the thing, like, you know, especially brutalism, because it gets such a hard... I feel like it gets too much hate for what it deserves. And it's
strange one.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I think it's really interesting, especially when you go to like the Barbican in London, how that was obviously meant to be sort of like the future after the war. You know, mixing both heavy industrialized spaces with nature, because obviously when you go there, there's a lot of trees and plants, and it also got the large lake in there. And it is, you know, it's interesting. It's an interesting space to walk in.
It's a weird one, because they were designed.
It doesn't feel like a space. You go there and there's people living there. People live in those apartments and stuff. But it doesn't feel like, it feels like you're in like a museum, like an open air museum more than anything. It just feels, because that's the thing, is they're meant to be that space where everything is sort of merged in there. You've got apartments, you've got open sort of spaces to go and do stuff.
Because they were supposed to be really democratic, where they were meant to be like communal spaces. But because I think because you go up steps into them, you're not... In England, we're used to like, okay, there's the road and the pavement. That's public. Everything else, private land, don't fuck around on it, because that belongs to someone. As when you walk into those spaces, you feel like you're on the museum steps or like someone's front garden, as it's not designed that way. It's meant to be, this is a big communal plaza sort of area.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the idea of it being like a democratic, open public space. The problem is that to make it, because they wanted them to be like cheap because it was rebuilding after the war, it's all out of concrete and stuff. Yeah. And it's a design choice that is quite beautiful, but I don't think humans like it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't get the green spaces like the Barbican did. Yeah. They were designed to, but they just never added the greenery. Like you'll see blocks of concrete that were meant to have plants on top, which they never added. Yeah. So it feels quite like you're on a building site sometimes. Yeah. It turns out people like hanging out in parks, not building sites.
Yeah. literally, yeah.
But it's interesting. They do get used, like when we went to the one opposite the Shard and you were taking a picture of the Shard, there was those kids dancing.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that probably wasn't intended as design, but the intention was here's the space away from people trying to get places where you can hang out, like almost like a park, but as a building. So it was being used as intended. And those kids probably don't know the history of brutalism. They weren't like, we should do it. It just kind of like naturally happened from how the space existed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
It's funny because London has had so many. Because I remember when you came out with me when we were walking around London and stuff, and I was telling you about, it was literally, I think it was just by the Shard, and they had like the paths which were running alongside the buildings on the roads, and obviously that was going to be like a huge sort of thing in London where they were just going to build like this huge network of elevated walkways like everywhere and bridges. It was going to be all over London.
Yeah, no, there's like one.
And it's literally that one, and that's it. And that's obviously like the most famous one. But I feel like London's just London, like just the UK in general, has just had like a history of, you know, sort of interesting projects, and then they've ended up being either cut back because of either like poor financing and just government interference, and it's just like, so you're just getting a bit of a, you know, a poor man's version of the final project. You'd be like, we're going to have a walkway that was going to be, you know, in total like 150 miles long, but in the end you only got one that was like 500 meters long sort of thing.
Which, like you say, happens over and over again all the time. And I think that's why brutalism popped up everywhere, is because they were designed with building out of concrete, it's all prefab, it's dirt cheap to make these things. Yeah. And it was such a good idea. And that's why it worked, because it was like, well, yeah, we can fund that, fine. Yeah. It's cost a quarter of what we thought it was going to cost. Yeah. We go build it. But the problem was they just didn't factor in that, like, they just didn't factor in that people just wouldn't want to hang out in this weird concrete block. But yeah, now they get repurposed into museums and like like they look stunning on photographs, but they are like, and I think as well, the big downfall of it was like, because in the 60s they probably looked very futuristic.
It was sort of like, the 50s and 60s, they sort of had that obsession with sort of retro futuristic. Yeah. Like when you look at films and stuff at the time, particularly the 50s, like, and even like cartoons and stuff, like all the films and that were very, like the sci-fi films were very retro futuristic sort of thing. You know, they felt like in the year 2000, everyone would literally have a flying car, all that sort of stuff.
And yeah, it's interesting to bring it up, because then what changed within the sci-fi genre was the 70s and 80s come around, and every vision of the future was like,
capitalist,
welcome to hell. Yeah, hell is coming. And what architecture did they use to represent that? It was all the brutalist stuff. Because that was a symbol of the future, and they were saying the future's gonna be shit. And then it circles around. Now when you see a brutalist building, you think Blade Runner. Or some universe you don't want to live in. Not the Jetsons.
But then it's like the Blade Runner films made me appreciate brutalism even more, to be honest. Particularly the second one. But
you wouldn't want to live there.
No, you wouldn't want to live there, but you would want to appreciate it. It would be cool to look at and just take photos of, and just be like, that's cool. You know, it was like the shot I quite liked of the one of my photos here of what's it? The bridge shot. I can't remember what the bridge is called now for some reason. It's gone out of my head. But the one with the building, and it has, I remember I've always sort of looked at that building, and it's not a spectacular building, but it has sort of like those elements of brutalism. It's just very
well, it feels defined. Sci-fi. It feels like I think I said to you, like the Arrival spaceship is what it looks like. And which is the slightly
sort of like
modified.
Angled.
It sort of is like off the back of brutalism, but like, you know, and kind of fits in like Dune as well, has that slight aesthetic where it's brutalism inspired, but adding new design elements to it as well. Yeah. Coming a bit more curvy.
That's why I loved shooting the National Theatre. Okay, yes, it is brutalism, but particularly the shot I got, you know, it's just all these different layers of building structures, but it doesn't look at all something that would be inhabited. It just looks like a load of building blocks just sort of more smashed together like, sort of thing, making an interesting space.
Yeah. And it reminded me of... so this is an example. There's a game called Naissance, which is based on, I think there was a manga, but it's about a world where they built like these robots that would build buildings and sort of, then there was like a massive war that wiped out like a lot of the population, and there was still these robots building these giant mega structures without anyone like telling them what to build. Yeah. And naturally the robots just start building weird shit, like, you know, stairs that go to nowhere, or just like blocks of concrete that are just
like The Simpsons.
And just like these weird mega structures. And then the game played on that as well, where you have to like work your way through this building, but it's like the building doesn't really like it's familiar design elements, but it makes like no sense. It's this very like big blocks of concrete, and it's like stairs you have to like jump up, and like just architecture that's like fucking against you. Which like when you look at that picture, it does seem like, because it's like, how do you navigate if you were there? Obviously when you're there you know where the stairs are, but the way you've shot it where it's like all these blocks, it's like, how do you get around that building? How am I meant to, you know, do you live there, do you go do something there? Like, it's just blocks, you know what I mean? It looks
absolutely
completely hostile, like
and I think that's sort of you know, that sort of reflects, you know, sort of the nature of like humanity, what they've sort of gone for, really. Particularly when there's, you know, people always sort of compare, particularly brutalist architecture, they sort of, people tend to say like, oh, that was, you know, a product of like the Soviet Union, you know, because after the war, many, you know, Soviet countries, well, and countries that were under sort of the Iron Curtain, they went for that sort of brutalist
I think that's why it's hated in England now, because it has that connotation as well.
So they just think of the Soviet Union and they're like, oof, and they go, you know, which is, but it's interesting because it's, you know, I mean, particularly if you ever go to places like Prague and stuff, and when I went to Bratislava, you know, a lot of it had been sort of destroyed in the war, and when you go there, you obviously got like the historic city centre. And there's a tower called, when you go to the castle there, the Bratislava castle, you just look across the Danube and you just see all these tower blocks, and they're all just, you know, it's interesting. It's just, I mean, they're fucking ugly, but because they're all just the same. It's just literally the same building over and over and over again. It was just basically obviously designed just to house as many people as possible, and you know, obviously people, you know, live free, don't have to pay rent or anything. So it was just people getting free housing, which obviously is a good thing, but not the right buildings for it. It was just to house as many people as they could, sort of thing. But yeah, no, that was sort of interesting. So especially when you go to those countries, when you go and see like the classical architecture, which is quite, you know, which is stunning, and then you see these. Often, sometimes it can be beautiful, but other times there could be, you know, just abominations of architecture design. You're just like, what the fuck were they thinking, sort of thing.
I think that's why it's interesting, especially photographers, because they look so interesting. They had like the best of intentions, but everyone, like most normal people, just gutturally are like, doesn't sit right with you at all. It just wasn't, for whatever reason, just didn't consider people. Just completely hostile architecture is just so weird to find. Like, it seems so out of place. Especially, I imagine, in Prague, that has loads of like old European style. Like,
it's got like classical, you know, architecture, and then, you know, it's a weird one. It seems obviously it's more common in the countries that were you know, in Eastern Europe, sort of thing. And particularly like with more recently, you've got like lockdown with COVID and stuff. People, you know, before were sort of perfectly happy living in an apartment, and then as soon as lockdown came in, people appreciated the outdoors, sort of thing. And now people are just sort of like, oh no, you know, don't want to be living in, you know, a huge apartment block, sort of thing. I want a garden or an open space, sort of thing, you know. And it's now how, like, particularly obviously with like climate change and stuff, how you're getting a lot of buildings where they're having like all the plants added onto them. So obviously, you know.
Well, there's like new sort of movement kind of popping up, but there's a lot of it's funny, but it's solar punk. which is kind of like the counter reaction to cyberpunk.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one to look into, but it could be. It's got some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot controversial because it just kind of popped up. There was like some random advert that kind of used styling from it. So people are like, oh, it's some corporation's going to tell us what to do or whatever. But it's like...
It's like that greenwashing, isn't it? When you get all the big oil companies are like, oh, we're going to stick a few wind turbines here, but we're still going to be mining and building opening a new oil field, you know. It's just,
but,
it was like that advert, what was it, Olivia Colman did earlier on in The Edge. Have you seen that one where she was like basically pretending to be a obviously an oil corporate sort of thing, and she was just there like, oh yeah, we'll keep you guys happy if we stick a few wind turbines and a few solar panels here. Well, we're still, you know, because I think it was something to do with like people's pensions or something, right? Like it goes to obviously like big oil and gas companies sort of thing, like Shell and BP and whatnot, and that's obviously riled up a lot of people because people are like, I obviously don't want my money going towards oil and gas companies sort of thing. So,
I think there is like a shift between people wanting to kind of scale back and make communities work by themselves but especially over COVID, because we got so like, before COVID, everything you bought was online you didn't know where it came from. It was just random shit. And then I think just slowly we've realized like, oh, if we actually just kind of help the people around us, we can have our own internal ecosystem that has its own personality, just as good, probably better than what some corporation can shit out, especially in terms of like food and stuff.
Yeah,
but, like,
absolutely. Yeah.
And we can just like make it work for ourselves and not have to fuck around with all this other shit. Probably use a lot less, produce a lot more, and do it in a sustainable way, which is kind of the philosophy of this solar punk idea, and what a lot of people are moving towards. Like homesteading gets more popular, microgreens, all this sort of
all that
crazy
sort of
stuff coming in.
Yeah.
Like
I know Milton Keynes, they've got like a few sort of bits like that. I know like in the shopping centre, like by the car park, they've got one of the car parks, they've got like a moss wall going up the side of the it's quite cool. And then I think they're meant to be building like a like sort of like a new tower block at some point on like the old Central Bedfordshire uni campus, and it's going to be sort of like up, and then they've got like this huge like sort of bit sort of in the middle where it's just like this big green space in the middle of the building sort of thing. It's quite interesting. It's sort of like when you look at it, it looks like every sort of normal sort of like Grenfell type apartment building, but then they've just stuck this bit of like open space in the middle of the building sort of thing. It looks interesting. It's quite it's quite cool. But I feel like everyone's obviously going towards that more sort of community based neighborhoods now, where you're getting everything there, like retail spaces, leisure, and then you've got nature spaces as well, sort of thing.
Which is good, because it's like, fuck, man. It's a horrible feeling to be somewhere where it's like, what are we going to do today? There's nothing to do. We've got to go to London.
Yeah.
We've got to go somewhere else to find something, because we've bought stuff from other people, built all them up, and then just let ourselves fucking just div it, you know what I mean? And I think especially across like, it's probably been between our grandparents and now, just like the idea of like a community or being connected to people has just kind of gone like, and then like it all crashed during fucking COVID, because it was just like, oh fuck, now we're completely alone, which is, COVID didn't feel probably as a shock to the system as it would have been like in our grandparents' era.
Yeah.
Because they would have been like, what do you mean I can't go to the shop and talk to the shop owner? Like, you know what I mean? As we were just like, well, we just keep ordering stuff online.
Yeah.
And I think that's what worried people, is like, this isn't actually that much further than what we're doing anyway. Yeah. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
So let's try and, what we're going to fucking do about it before, the earth catches fire and we're all dead anyway and this fucking ship sinks. But maybe we can paddle a little bit further. And
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah,
fuck it.
I'm gonna have to like do some research into solar punk. Never heard of that before, so it's gonna be interesting.
Show you some stuff. But,
I still need to buy that anime book, the one of the architecture.
That look fucking sit with Akira in it.
Yeah, that looks so good, so good.
But
yeah.
Fuck, man. Don't know about you, my back fucking aches. I think we've spoke for a fucking while.
I've sort of lost track of time.
We should probably wrap that up. That was fucking. I was thinking about wrapping up, and then it got really interesting about brutalism. But
no, that's going to be like my next series. Yeah. And I think even Europe, I want to do some trips to Europe. Funny enough, Benidorm of all places, because they've got some really interesting architecture there. Yeah,
not the place.
Yeah. Well, if you guys want to go to Benidorm at some point, let me know.
Well, that's the show. We'll see you in Benidorm.
See you in Benidorm.
Okay.
But yeah, no, because I've seen some architecture there, and obviously you wouldn't think of it in Benidorm. People just go there, and just party and whatnot. Sit by the pool,
get leathery.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got some interesting. Yeah, they've got like some really interesting. Like there's one building where it has like these big sort of circular bits sort of sticking out of it, and it looks very alien. It just looks very unnatural for a building. It's almost like brutalism, but it's like a different type of brutalism. Yeah, I'll show you some photos. It's interesting, and there's other places I want to go to, and I know there's a place in Russia where they've got like this police station, and it's just really, really cool, like an amazing brutalist building. And there's like a really iconic photo of it. I think it was like taken in like the middle of winter or something. And it has like the building here, and it's obviously like the white snow, and it has like a what you call a police car. Obviously it has like the red lights from behind it, and like the guy sort of walking towards the building. And I think Denis Villeneuve, who did Blade Runner 2049, he had sort of that image sort of inspired him in some scenes for Blade Runner. So it's very cool. Yeah. Mad. So to travel the world and shoot brutalist architecture.
That's a good game plan. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to do like the thing. What was it when you went with Ethan? Just come like with me while I go and shoot different places.
That'd be cool. Make a good series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning to go to Marrakesh in September, I think.
Sick.
Yeah, because I want to go there, and I just love the architecture there. Yeah. I'm going to try and I found this really nice riad called like the Central or something. Okay. And it's got like amazing like tiles, just like that typical Moroccan riad. Yeah. So I'm just there like, and I literally sort of found like a deal online. Literally, what was it? It's like a Tuesday to Saturday. And it's like for like bed and breakfast, flights included, it's like £260.
Damn.
Yeah.
Fair
so
play.
I'm like, I'm going to book that ASAP.
Nice.
Providing I could get it granted for book off. Love it.
Have fun. But yeah, anyway, Tom, we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, lovely stuff.
But yeah, that's another episode done.